It is April 3rd, and I hope everyone is having a fantastic National Burrito Day. I know what I'm doing for dinner. So you're welcome. No, not you're welcome. You're watching RPadTV. Well, I guess you're welcome for that. I'm joined today by the excellent Paul Semel, and Paul and I are going to be talking about Marvel's Young Avengers, or will it be Champions, an upcoming series on Disney Plus. But before we get to that, we have a few housekeeping items. As always, I want to hear about the latest and greatest on paulsemel.com. What do you got for us, Paul?
I have a lot, actually. So let's see. Earlier this week, I put up a review of Atomfall, which is a survival game, weirdly set in England, in a nice, lush part of England that's irradiated. Sure. Okay. I also did a hands-on preview of the upcoming Doom: The Dark Ages.
Yes.
Which is basically the bottom line is, if you like the last two Doom, you're going to like this one too. If you didn't like the last two Dooms, you're not going to like this one. And then for book stuff, I have a whole ton of stuff, including next week. I have a book I wanted to bring up because I think you might enjoy this.
Ooh.
It is called When We Were Real.
Okay.
Sorry, it's shiny, by Daryl Gregory. And the idea is people find out that they've been living in a Matrix-like simulation. But that was 7 years ago. And so these two friends decide that they're going to go on a road trip to go check out some of the glitches that have turned up in the years since they found out, because one of them has cancer.
Oh. And
apparently it's also humorous. So it's not like a sad story, but I got an interview with the author, probably going to run, I assume it'll run next week, because I need the cover art before I can run it. So but yeah, it seems like a really, really interesting story. And then I also have another one called Terrestrial History by Joe Mungo Reed. It's another science fiction novel, but it's a very different one. It's sort of a family drama about four generations that are ultimately involved in the colonization of Mars. So that's also coming out next week, along with my interview.
For the second book, did you do that interview already?
This one?
Yes.
Yes. It hasn't run yet, though, but it'll run next week.
Can you drop him an email and let him know that I'm a big fan of his uncle, Bungo Jerry? And the first book, that interview you have not done yet.
That interview I've also done. I just haven't gotten whenever I do an author interview, I always like to run the cover.
Gotcha.
I just haven't gotten the art from them yet. I got the text back today. So.
He has two first names, so I don't know if I trust that guy. But I'm curious. I'm always fascinated.
Eric Roberts?
I do not.
Oh, well, there you go. Okay.
I'm always curious about those. Do we live in a simulation theories? I mean, do you have an opinion on that? They're certainly compelling arguments, but it's too heavy for me to fully look into.
I feel like there would be more evidence of it at this point, given all we know about science and technology itself. But, we're talking about a computer simulation that was designed by a God-level intelligence. So maybe we wouldn't. I don't know.
Right.
I certainly don't think you should live your life like you think you live in one, because, that's kind of dumb.
Yes.
But,
Well, I want to know what you guys think. Do you think we live in a simulation? Leave your thoughts in the comments and leave an explanation, because that's really heavy stuff. Speaking of heavy stuff, this week Val Kilmer passed away, which made me really sad. He was a major influence on me as a kid, especially during the 80s. He was just the coolest guy ever. Between Top Secret, Real Genius, and Willow, I thought he was the coolest man alive. I wanted to ask you, and for everyone watching, do you have a favorite Val Kilmer movie?
Top Secret.
Okay.
Yeah. Top Secret was for me because I always love those movies.
Yes.
And I love the airplane movies and the Police Academy. In fact, it's funny that we're talking about this because just a couple hours ago they released a teaser trailer for the Police Squad movie that they're doing with Liam Neeson.
Yes.
Which I thought when I heard about it, I was a little like, I don't know about this. And I also was like, are they gonna just redo the first movie? Like, what are they gonna do? But it turns out that he's actually the son of Leslie Nielsen's character, which kind of it's only about a minute long, but it's kind of funny. It's I don't know if it's like spend $35 to go see it in a theater and parking and and whatnot funny, but it's certainly watch it on HBO the first night it's on funny. So
I will say it's Movie Pass funny. I will see it because if I still have a Movie Pass by then. But I love Leslie Nielsen. I thought he was perfect as Frank Drebin. I love Liam Neeson playing his son. I'm not set on the direction yet. It's one of the Lonely Island guys, Akiva. What's his face?
Goldsmith.
Yes. Okay. I mean, David Zucker, the Abram Zucker or Zucker Abram team was just tremendous. Airplane is probably the biggest influence on my sense of humor. So I'm not sold on the direction, but I love that Liam Neeson is playing his son. Paul Walter Hauser is playing Ed's son, which I think is hilarious too. And Nordberg's son. Yeah, I love that gag they did.
I know. I was wondering, like, how are they gonna deal with that whole situation? And I like that they were just like, yeah, we're,
Yeah. First comment from Carlos. He says it's a crappy simulation so far. I don't know who the main person this is for, but that person sucks, whomever they are. It might be Elon Musk. He could be the person behind the simulation, which is why he is insanely rich and has 32 children, 31 of whom hate him. But anyway, so yes, today we're talking about the Young Avengers / Champions. What we know so far is that this has been planned for a while. There was consideration of it being a movie, but as of now, it is planned to be a Disney Plus series that starts production January next year. Of course, so many things can change. We've had teases of it, starting with the Marvels post-credit scene. And we had some more teases, surprisingly, in episode 5 of Daredevil Born Again, which I was not expecting at all. And it sets up a Daredevil as a possible important figure in the Young Avengers, or will it be Champions series. So I wanted to talk with you, Paul, because you're a big comic book nerd also, about Young Avengers and Champions, possible characters that could be on the team, what we think of them, whether we want them on the team or not, and possible mentors. So I want you guys that are watching to play along with us too. As we're going through each character, let us know what you think of them and whether you think they should be on the team. But before we get to that, let's have some brief primer information, starting with who exactly are the Young Avengers. So the Young Avengers was a book originally written by, I've totally forgot his first name, Mr. Heinberg there. And that was in Alan Heinberg in 2005. And I love that book, especially the Children's Crusade storyline. It got updated in the Marvel Now. It has an exclamation point, so maybe it's Marvel Now series in 2013 by the excellent Kieran Gillen. Changed the team lineup a little bit. I'm a big fan of Kieran Gillen's comics. He's also a former video game journalist, so he is living proof that a video game journalist could go on to do important things in life, unlike Paul and I. Are joking.
Thanks.
Well, come on, let's be serious.
I know, but yeah.
And they're a more recent team, at least in these incarnations. I loved both runs of the comics, and I reread them frequently. The Champions has a longer history. Let's go back to 1975. They look at this collection of losers. I mean, keep in mind, none of these characters were particularly popular at the time. You have Hercules, Angel, and Iceman from the X-Men, Ghost Rider before he was cool in the 90s, and Black Widow. Sorry, I cut your head off, Natasha. But yeah, this was an odd team of characters that had nothing better to do. So let's put them on a team together and hopefully sell some books that way. They did not. But Champions did get updated in 2016 as a young person's book, also part of the Marvel Now series. If you look on the left, the lineup has a time displaced Cyclops. That is the original Cyclops from the original X-Men team that was transported to the future. Don't ask why. That's a whole other story. You have Amadeus Cho, the totally awesome Hulk, Miles Morales up there in the top as Spider-Man, Ms. Marvel, Nova, and Viv, who is the daughter of Vision. Later on, that team was updated to include Riri Williams, Ironheart, who is on the right there. So it became another youngster team, which is what they're doing with the Young Avengers now. Paul, were you fans of any of these books? I loved 3 of them, not the 1970s Champions. I was before my time.
Yeah, I it's funny because I did a little research today to find out the dates, and I didn't know I didn't know or I didn't remember that the Champions had been around in the 70s. And when I looked at that, I was like, I definitely didn't read that. And I loved Ghost Rider back then, but that was when I was 7. So I don't know that I was reading comics when I was 7 years old, or if I was, I don't think it was that.
I didn't know anyone liked Ghost Rider.
I loved Ghost Rider when I was a kid. Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, and that's like before he got cool in the 90s. But yeah. So if I had seen that, I would have wanted to read it, but I don't remember it at all. I know I read the Young Avengers and I really liked it, and I've been reading the new Champions a lot because I'm a big fan of Miles Morales and I'm a big fan of Ms. Marvel, and I really like Viv too.
Yeah, Viv's awesome.
She's that whole run with Vision and like him having a family and whatnot. That was a cool little series they did, and so I like Viv in these books.
And the 2016 Champions book was started by Mark Waid, who is my favorite comics writer of all time. The art was Humberto Ramos, who does really cool stuff. Love his Spider-Man art. Loved his Impulse art, especially. So that was a great book. I mean, I will read anything Mark Waid writes. So very cool. Now let's go down the possible members. This all started in a post-credit scene in the Marvels where Kamala Khan goes to New York to recruit Hawkeye. What did you make of that scene, and what was your reaction when that first seed of Young Avengers in the MCU was planted?
Right. Well, first of all, I love that movie. It's one of my favorite Marvel movies. And I loved the Hawkeye show, and I loved the Kate Bishop portrayal, and I loved Iman Vellani as Ms. Marvel. And that scene, that's one of the, I just laugh. I mean, I love that movie, but like that scene was one of the best scenes in that movie because she does the whole shtick that like
Sam. Nick Fury. Yeah.
Nick Fury did to Iron Man. It's just funny because because you have Hawkeye who's like, what's going on? Why are you in my house?
And this
why
is
are you in my pizza?
It's funny because Florence Pugh's Black Widow also broke into her apartment.
Right.
Like,
which is
better security.
And that by the way is one of my favorite scenes in the Hawkeye.
Yes.
show.
Oh,
It's
love
when
that.
the two of them were sitting there and
Right.
Florence Pugh is eating mac and cheese.
Yeah.
Like,
It's like, you don't want any? Then she's like, it goes banana with a hot sauce.
yeah. It's funny because like I hadn't really seen Florence Pugh in a lot of things, and that was like
Oh,
the first time where I was like, oh, now I get why everybody loves her. Okay, cool. Yeah, I love her too now.
so highly recommend Fighting with My Family, where she plays a young female wrestler named Paige,
That's
who's
her. Okay.
come from the family of wrestlers from
Right.
England who are all kinds of wacky. But also Nick Frost is in that, and it's directed by who's the tall guy in the English Office that partners with Ricky Gervais a lot.
Stephen Merchant?
Yes, so he directed
No.
it. So
Did I ever tell you my Stephen Merchant story?
no.
I was at Hugo's one day.
Oh.
Hugo's, for people who don't know, is a very cool restaurant in Los Angeles, one of my favorites for over 20 years. And the night before was the episode of no, I'm sorry, like the night before I'd watched a rerun of The Simpsons, and it was the one that Stephen Merchant was on. And as I was sitting there, Stephen Merchant walked in and sat down next to me, and I was like, well, that's weird. And he goes, what? And I go, I literally just watched your episode of The Simpsons last night. And he's like, oh, did you enjoy it? And I said, yes, I did. You were very good in it. And he goes, thanks. And that was the end of that.
Well, you made his day. He has full of approval.
Yeah. So
Ms. Marvel.
This is just the weirdness of Los Angeles. So,
I mean, she has to be on the team because she kicked this whole thing off. Her character.
You mean Kamala Khan, not.
Right. Well, no, Ms. Marvel. Yes.
Yeah. Not Florence Pugh and not Stephen Merchant.
I mean, she kicked this whole thing off. She has to be on the team. She's had her own series. Was one of the leads in a movie that you and I loved. A lot of people.
Well, people do love that movie. It just didn't do well
for various reasons. But but she's a great character. I love the Ms. Marvel comics so much. Read the G. Willow Wilson ones if you can. They are fantastic. And Aman Vellani is just probably my favorite addition to the MCU in the last 10 years. So she is a definite. I mean, would you say the same about Hawkeye, Paul? Since she was the first recruit?
Yes, I really, really want her to be in it. I think she would be good. She needs to learn how to be a superhero and also how to work in a team. I think those are the two main pillars, if you will.
Okay.
Of what they're going to have to learn in this school is not just how to master their own powers, but also how to work with other people. Because if you remember, one of the things that the Avengers got really good at was working together. Like when Steve Rogers would use the shield, Thor's hammer, and the shield to send a sonic sort of wave and destroy things. And you also had the scene in the first Avengers movie where Tony banked a shot off his shield so those are the two things I think you would want to teach people in a superhero school, and those two characters both, even though they both have a little bit of experience, they need more experience in both of those areas.
Right. I mean, I think you have to have her as well, but I'm completely biased because the actor Haley Steinfeld is part Filipino, so of course I want her on the team. And I can't. And she's probably, I'm looking at the list of potentials for the kids anyway. She's probably the biggest star out of all of them, huh?
Yeah, she is. But she also has been very vocal about how she loved playing the character and she wants to play her again and again and again. So, I can't imagine, to go a little inside baseball, I can't imagine her agents not letting her do this or there being a problem getting her to do this.
Yeah, no, I agree. So a third person was mentioned in that post-credit scene of the Marvels, and that is Cassie Lang. Kamala offhandedly goes, Ant-Man has a daughter, something like that. And yes, this is true. Ant-Man does have a daughter. In the comic books, she is named Stature, and she does not shrink like her father, but instead she uses Pym particles to become very large. She's played in the movie, or the most recent movie. There's actually been a few different actors that have played Cassie at different ages, but most recently played by Catherine Newton, who I think is a fantastic actor. And the camera just loves her. I also saw her in that movie Lisa Frankenstein, which is not a good movie, but she was charming and delightful in it. I want her on this team also to be, as you mentioned, I didn't think about it in terms of pillars, Paul, but that's a great way to put it. I do hope that Cassie is also one of the pillars. It would be nice if those three were the focus. I don't know. What do you think of Cassie and her role?
Well, I like first of all, I like Catherine Newton as an actress a lot. I liked her in Quantumania. I really liked her in the movie Blockers that she was in.
Sorry, don't let Diddy hear the young.
Yeah.
I don't think Diddy's getting near anyone these days.
No. Diddy's not getting near anyone. Although it's funny that he says that, because earlier today I was doing something to do with Mario and Luigi, and they brought up Diddy, but they didn't refer to him as Diddy Kong. They just mentioned Diddy, and for a split second there I was like, oh right, Diddy Kong. Sorry, just took me a second. But anyway, yeah, Catherine Newton's really, really, really good. I also really like, even I've never seen them together, but I could see her and Kamala and Kate Bishop, those three characters, really, really doing well together. There seems like there would be definite chemistry there of like a girl power kind of, which I think would be really kind of cool to see in a TV show.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, even though we don't have any idea really, but in my head they have awesome chemistry, and I mean on paper, or at least the way we're imagining it should be awesome.
Yeah,
I hope that happens. So the next young hero that we're going to talk about was not in the post-credit scene of the Marvels, but she was in the latest Doctor Strange movie, and this is America Chavez. In the comics, she plays an important role in the Kieran Gillen run. I don't know, the way I read her, she is a little bit older than the MCU version of her, and she's a little bit tougher. She almost talks like Razor Ramon. She calls everyone Chico and Chica a lot. So I almost want to see her, throwing toothpicks at people and be like, hey, Chico. But in the comics, a younger actor who was also similarly delightful played her. And we haven't seen her, the actor or the character, in a while for reasons.
Well, she was on I just lost the name of it. So You Think You Can Dance? No, not So You Think You Can Dance. What's the show where people dance with celebrities?
Dancing with the Stars?
Dancing with the Stars. She won Dancing with the Stars.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and it was weird too, because I remember thinking, like, you don't go on Dancing with the Stars when your career trajectory is on an upswing or you're relatively new. Like, you go on Dancing with the Stars when your career is plateaued or is sinking. Why is she doing this show? And she just, apparently she killed it and everybody loved her on it. So
good for her.
Yeah.
I was speaking more in terms of Marvel stuff that we haven't.
Oh yeah. She hasn't turned back up. Well, I mean, it's not that. How many movies have there been since
Doctor Strange? I want to say at least 5. I don't know.
Wait, really?
Yeah, we've had. Black Widow is a flashback, so maybe that doesn't count. Although she does have timey-wimey multiversal adventures. The Marvels. Let's go to the MCU release.
I know Captain America, Deadpool. I didn't think it was that long ago.
So, oh wow. So Thor: Love and Thunder.
Okay.
Black Panther, Wakanda Forever.
Okay.
The ones you mentioned, Deadpool, Captain America, Brave New World, The Marvels.
Oh, was the Marvels after? Oh, I guess it was.
Yes, it was.
All right. Yeah, you're right. Okay, so it has been a little while. All right.
But that's the actor
Xochitl Gomez.
Xochitl Gomez. You're
Yeah.
correct.
Who is also a very like like all the people we've mentioned earlier, very likable actress, very personable actress, very natural actress. Again, I think she would also get along really well with Kamala and Kate Bishop and Cassie Lang. Like the four of them, again,
Yeah.
you could see there being some fun, girl interaction kind of things.
And I have no idea what their actual ages are, but the way I interpret it from their characterizations would be that Kamala and America would be like the little sisters, and Cassie and Kate would be like the big sisters.
Yeah, I think that Haley Steinfeld is older than Catherine Newton, and I think Catherine Newton is older than Sochi and Amon. Yeah, but I think the difference in their ages isn't that great. Okay. I think it's maybe like a total of 8 years.
Right, and plus we don't know when the movies take place. They're all in different years anyway. So.
Right.
So who knows? But if they go tonally more Young Avengers than Champions, I think you have to include America Chavez, just because she's such an important part of the team, especially in the Kieran Gillen run.
Right. Well, but here's the thing. I think that whatever they do, it doesn't matter whether they call it the Young Avengers or the Champions. They're going to do what they want to do. They're not going to feel beholden to what was in the comics.
Sure, but I don't want them. Well, at least I don't want them to go too far from those, because you have great source material in both.
Yeah, but you can use the stories for that to tell. I mean, because the basic idea really is the same. It's just a whole bunch of young, less experienced superheroes coming together. And if we're talking about a TV show where they're in school, really, well, you could just as easily call it Avengers Academy and say that,
right. But we're not. That's pure speculation, though. We don't know if they're
right.
Like, and Champions is really an informal thing, or so is Young Avengers. They weren't really at a school per se, like the New Mutants were, or something like that. Or what was the Jubilee's team, Generation X, when they had? So we don't know if they'll be in school. Hopefully they get training. It'll be interesting to see how they handle that. We have a bunch more heroes to discuss, but before we get to that, I wanted to do a little housekeeping. I am giving away this water bottle that you see here this month. The contest is open to Patreon members with a U.S. mailing address. Just go to my Patreon here, patreon.com/RPadTV, and leave a comment on the post that says April water bottle giveaway. Membership is free, so all you have to do is sign up, leave a comment, and you get a chance to win this awesome water bottle. It's very special. There's only one of these in the entire world. So, I mean, that's reason enough to get one. And if you're looking for other ways to help out the site, don't forget that I have partnered with Proton. So if you need a Proton Mail or Proton VPN subscription, use my link, go.getproton.me/sh10oj. There's a direct link in the Facebook and YouTube descriptions, but you can get up to 64% off a Proton VPN subscription by using this link. I use Proton products myself, both paid versions of Proton VPN and Proton Mail. I'm a big fan of their products. I know there's a lot of great VPN and secure email services out there, but I really like what Proton offers, and I hope you give them a chance. Now back to our show. I just like saying that. It's so stupid. So another young character that was introduced very briefly in the She-Hulk series was Scar, who is the Hulk's son. in the comics, there are these two big storylines, Planet Hulk and World War Hulk, where Hulk goes to a different planet by accident, has crazy, violent adventures, but also falls in love, finds some peace, and has a kid that we did not know about for a while. And they introduced him briefly at the end of the She-Hulk series, and he looks like this. What do you think of this character, and do you want him on the team, Paul?
Well, if they hadn't already introduced him, I would have said get Amadeus Cho instead. Because Amadeus is a much more interesting character.
Yes. Completely.
But since he's here and they need someone, maybe, but there's somebody we're going to talk about that I think would actually fill the same role in a much more interesting way.
Very cool. I'm curious to see who you think fits that role. This is the first character that I would like to veto. I think his haircut is stupid. It's hard and expensive to mix full CGI characters. So I don't want budget wasted on that. I'd rather have them do cool live action stunts instead and keep of course you have to use some CGI for like Stature's powers and Ms. Marvel's powers, but I'm against having a full CGI character. So nothing against the actor or Scar himself. I just don't want to see it. Also, because they didn't do like the full Planet Hulk and they didn't do any World War Hulk content in the MCU. I don't think the character has as much of an impact. It doesn't matter as much. So it could be any insert young, strong superhero here, and that character could fulfill that role. And also, again, this haircut is stupid. Maybe it's cool on that world, but on Earth, the other superheroes would be making fun of him.
Yeah, I don't know why Universal hasn't just said to Marvel, go make a World War Hulk movie. Or make a Hulk movie,
The rights are an issue too. I forgot to mention that, but you're absolutely right.
I mean, but like, there's no reason for them not to do it, especially if they said, look, come up with a script, come up with a budget, and we'll figure it out, Because if Disney said to them, okay, look, it's going to cost us $150 million to do this movie, let's split it 50-50, but we'll promote it, and we'll take, 60% of the distribution rights on home video, or I don't know. They can work out a deal.
Obviously Sony and Marvel did great with that, with the Spider-Man movies. So you're right. There's no reason aside from, I don't know what executive personalities are involved. So maybe that's the holdup. I don't know, but
I don't know.
You're just making Hulk fans suffer, Universal. Stop doing your shitty movies and let Kevin Feige handle it.
So unless Disney is sitting there just thinking, well, their option runs out at this date, and we just wait till then.
That's true. But, by the way, Scar Jones, as you see below, is not his actual name. I just thought that was funny. Like, does Scar have a name? Scar Jones. Star Jones. That could work. But anyway. So moving on to our next possible member, we have Billy Maximoff, who we met in the Agatha All Along series, which I loved. Apparently, it was not so popular, but I thought it was a fantastic series. And I loved seeing, especially when Billy, it doesn't happen until I think the penultimate episode, but Billy flies down in his comic accurate costume. That I totally marked out for that moment because I'm such a fan of him in Young Avengers, the comics, that it was so cool for me to see him in that costume and using his magic that way. What do you think of this character, Paul? And do you want to see more of him?
I think he would be good for the team. We need a magic wielder.
Yes.
I think he would be good for the show because I as much as I would like it to be like an all women show, I don't think that would be right for the show.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like if they were doing like a female, if they said, you know, we're gonna do like a female Avengers thing where like the ladies of the Avengers, I don't know, go off and fight Master Incel and you know, like that would be super cool. I always love the moments in the movies when you did have the, you know, like that one scene in End, you know, in Endgame where all the women get together, and it's one of my favorite scenes. But I think for this, you know, you're going to want some guys in there mixing it up. And I think, like I said, you don't have a magic wielder yet, and as we all know from Dungeons and Dragons, you need to have a magic wielder in your party somewhere.
You do. I mean, the proper Avengers had Wanda and Doctor Strange for timey-wimey stuff. So yeah, I agree that on a practical level, you need the magic guy. And I love this character, really enjoyed the actor in Agatha, and he also fills the gay quota, if that matters. I don't know if it does. And at the end of the series, they hinted that he was going to go looking for his brother, Tommy Shepard. He has a different last name because he was adopted by another family. But in the comics, he has powers. He has speed powers. His name is Speed in the comics. But he has powers like Pietro Maximoff, his uncle. So, I don't know. I guess if you need a magic user, you need a speedster too. How do you feel about that?
I mean, again, you know, he's a boy, not a girl. So, you know, you wouldn't want there to be like 8 women and 1 token guy.
Right.
Although that could be entertaining when they get to like, you know, who goes in what dressing room. But yeah, having a speedster is good, and we haven't really seen anybody with those kind of powers since Age of Ultron. So
you're right.
You know, and that guy's dead. So it would be good to get somebody with that power set. You know.
Yeah. I mean,
until they bring Pietro back somehow.
And if if you have one, you have to have both. I don't know. That's how I feel about it. There's no logic behind it really. But if you're gonna you can't leave his brother out. Presumably, if they're going to be looking for him in the Vision Quest series, which is further in the future,
right?
Who knows? The next character I wanted to talk about is they did show a young version of Speed in the WandaVision series, but that was, you know, he was a toddler back then. So I guess they did show him then. No idea what he looks like now. But yeah. The next character I wanted to talk about also is in a similar situation where we saw a variant of him in the Loki series, but we haven't seen him in the proper what is it, the timeline called? The Grand
Void.
No, what's the good timeline called?
Josh.
Oh,
I don't know. I don't remember. Yeah, there is a term for it, like master timeline.
Yes.
Sacred timeline.
Sacred timeline. There you go. Thank you. I was waiting for Carlos to correct us on that. But again, this is I love Kid Loki in Kieran Gillen's Young Avengers, but also Kieran Gillen wrote some beautiful, beautiful stories in the Journey into Mystery comics, where young Loki was the main character. So I hope we get some kind of version like that. And you can also play around with his age. They've had this young Loki who looks like, what is he, like 8 or 9? But they also aged him up later through magic as a teen. So they had that Loki. At different times, he's been like the Young Avengers ally, but also kind of stringing them along. So maybe kind of like proper Loki was with the Avengers. Sometimes he was the antagonist. Other times they softened him up, and they ultimately made him a good guy, and ultimately made him a mystical tree at the end of it all. I don't know. I love this character, and I hope we get something like it in Young Avengers. Do you have any strong feelings about young Loki?
No, I mean, the one thing is, his powers would overlap with Wiccan, but they're different enough that they could work together on things. So I think it would be interesting. I just don't know how you get him into the MCU. I mean, the last time we saw him, he was in the Void, and as far as we know, he's still there.
Right, but that was a variant and not a younger version of the Sacred Timeline Loki.
Right.
I mean, there are ways to do it. I mean,
yeah. I mean, they could, you know. I would also like to see Alligator Loki turn up, because I just love the images of like the alligator wearing a little helmet.
Yes. Yeah. The next character we're going to talk about was introduced in Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, which, given the circumstances of that movie, you know, it's hard to criticize, because how do you deal with losing your lead to cancer? So that movie wasn't the best, but they had some great elements. But it also gave us the first glimpse of Riri Williams, who is Ironheart in the comics. I think you're more interested in this character than I am, Paul.
I really like her in the comics.
Yeah, I love her.
I didn't like her nearly as much in the movie, although I did like her.
She felt forced into it.
Yeah, and I feel like she could be a good addition, but at the same time, if they were like, no, we're not going to have her and be part of this, I could sort of see that. It's the same reason, like, there's been, you know, like, she, you know, you could do Black Panther, like Shuri could be Black Panther, but like, I kind of don't see her in this. Yeah. Like, I feel like Shuri is just going to be like, no, I got to like keep an eye out on Wakanda, because ickweeds keep coming for our shit. And I feel like Riri, I don't know. I mean, I guess I got to see what they do with her in the Ironheart show.
Yes. Speaking of which, Carlos asked, do we have an update on when Ironheart is coming out? As far as I know, it's still June this year. I didn't know anything had changed on that.
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong, though. But yeah,
I think a lot. Ask me the same question at the end of that show, and I'll be able to give you a better answer if I think she should be a member of the Young Avengers or Champions or what. Yeah,
who knows? She might not need the training or the help if she's elevated by the end of her series. But at the same time, if we were talking about different archetypes that a team needs, they need a smart person, so she can be the smart person, like Tony is for the Avengers.
Right.
Although he really was more about the money than anything else. He was just the team money bag. But yeah, they need a smart person, and Riri could be it. I'm looking at the list. Yeah, there's no other genius level characters, unless they did happen to use Amadeus, which would be fantastic. But we have not seen any signs of that character in the proper MCU, although his mom was in Age of Ultron, and they had a variant in that excellent Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man series that we reviewed a couple of weeks ago. So it is possible. Who knows with timey-wimey. But yes, I think for Riri, I think your opinion is right. TBD. It depends what she gets up to at the end of her series. So we will find that out in June. Zach Morris asks, what about Prodigy for the smart person? I think he is the only person they haven't teased. Yes, that is a great.
That's actually a good point. Yeah, because that's the thing. Like, if they go a different direction with Riri, there's a lot of other smart people they could add. You know,
this is very true. I mean, allegedly, Miles Morales will be implemented in the proper MCU in the Avengers movies. And depending on when Young Avengers comes out, Miles could be the smart-ish person. I mean,
that's true.
Fantastic Four, if we're talking literal first steps of Franklin Richards, they could have Franklin or maybe even Valeria in there. I don't know. What other smart young heroes can you guys think of? Prodigy is a great shout, though, Zach Morris. That's good thinking there. I do like that. Let's see. Are we assuming we don't get Nathaniel Richards since Fantastic Four is around the 60s? I don't know if we'll get Nathaniel Richards. I don't know. We'll see.
I also don't think that the Fantastic Four are gonna that we get in, like you say, the Avengers movies upcoming are gonna be 60 years older than they are in that movie. You know, they're gonna have to bring them into our timeline somehow.
Yes. I think the other problem with Nathaniel Richards is that Nathaniel Richards is also in the comics. He is Kang, and I think they want to get as far away from Kang as possible because of reasons. The next probable character was introduced in The Falcon and Winter Soldier, and this is Elijah Bradley. I think they just call him Eli in the show. Here he is in the background there. And in the comics, he is Patriot, who is obviously their super soldier type of member. I mean, they already have an actor in the MCU already, and they could use a Captain America type figure. Do you like this guy in the team?
Yeah. I mean, as long as they can come up with a good reason why he gets the super serum powers, you know, because that could go either way. I think he would be. He seemed like a bit of a hothead in the show, but given the circumstances, it made sense. He was certainly a good actor from what little we saw of him. So yeah, I think he would be a good. You need that kind of moral compass. And I think that he could be that, especially after seeing what his grandfather went through and his interactions with Sam.
Right.
You know,
and I think that character would be a great contrast to Kate Bishop, who grew up with money. And I could see them having arguments and you know, him calling her a princess and stuff like that. So I like that for the team dynamic. You have this angry, street smart kid giving the rich girl all kinds of shit. So I like it for a personality point of view. And plus it never hurts to have the stars and stripes on your team. It's good for marketing purposes too.
Not right now, but yeah, normally, a lot of times, yes.
Carlos says, wouldn't Elijah's super soldier abilities be hereditary? Yes, although in the comics, wasn't he kind of a fraud? Am I remembering that correctly?
I don't remember.
Yeah, the original run was so long ago. But yeah, I believe that is the case, Carlos. The next member we're going to talk about was introduced very recently and is not even a superhero yet, but it is Angela Del Toro, who in the comics becomes White Tiger eventually. She was introduced in Daredevil Born Again as is it his niece? I believe that's right. The niece of White Tiger, who, spoilers, if you haven't watched Born Again, is no longer with the MCU. Maybe I shouldn't have spoiled that one, but I like that they're using a younger actor because, as you see in the comics, she's quite a bit older when she becomes White Tiger and maybe doesn't quite fit in to a youth team.
Right.
And we've seen this actor in, I think she has been 2 episodes, not in many scenes, but in the scene she was in, I thought she crushed it. Child actors can be very hit or miss, but I loved her as a very angry. We're talking about Elijah as being an angry, street smart youth. I believe he's in the Maryland area or somewhere near DC. where now we have this girl from Washington Heights being the angry, street smart youth. As a New Yorker, I love her inclusion in it. What do you think of her in the team? But also, we haven't really talked much about Daredevil outside of the main characters. What did you think of her in the series so far?
I thought what little we got to see of her, she was really good. As an actress, she very believable. She has a very different energy though to all the women that we've sort of talked about already.
Oh yeah.
And I think that would be, I don't see her going to the malt shop with them, but I think that their interactions would be interesting and there would be a bit of that conflict. Like, her and Eli would kind of gravitate towards each other, but also kind of lock horns. Whereas, I think, I feel like Kamala is going to get along with everybody, but again, I could see, her not getting along necessarily with Cassie or Kate Bishop because of their backgrounds, but it could be interesting, and it would be an interesting dynamic. She's also very young, I believe. Right. She certainly looks very young. So again, you have a very young person in that group who could, which could make, again, for some interesting dynamics.
I love that we're fleshing this out in our heads. Like, I totally agree that of her bonding with Eli and butting heads initially until they're like, hey, let's mess with the rich chick. Both of them start picking on, let's mess with the white girls. I think that's what they do. And Kamala, I think I see her more as the person trying to unite everyone and please everyone. And then eventually that comes to her detriment, where she decides she has to step up and lead, and instead of trying to please everyone and be like, hey, we got to do what's right. And I don't know, just imagining things, we could see that. Now you had an interesting idea, and I'm curious to get everyone else's take on this, and that this doesn't necessarily have to be a youth team. It could also be a team for heroes that are not so experienced. Go on with your theory on why you think that could be.
Well, I was thinking that we weren't necessarily talking about a team per se, but like a school or like a sort of a program where young people who've just gotten their superpowers learn how to use their powers correctly, how to use them safely, but also how to work within a team. And what I thought would be interesting is if you got the Scarab, who was introduced at the very end of Moon Knight, and also She-Hulk in there. And you had said to me, well, like, Jen Walters doesn't want to be a superhero, which is true, but Jen is smart enough to know she has these powers, and if a Thanos-level problem shows up, she's going to have to step up. Right. And better for her to know how to really use her powers well and how to work with other people when it's needed.
Right.
And
it's like what they say about guns and condoms. Better to have one and not need it than to need one and not have it.
Yeah. Yeah. But the other thing that I thought would be interesting for the show is you have this dynamic where Jen Walters and the Scarab are older and further along in life than all the other people that we've mentioned. And so you would have that dynamic of like, okay, you're in class together, but you're in class with like this 20-year-old, or I mean, even younger in some cases, kid, but you're in your 30s with a career. Right. And then you also have the dynamic where Jen Walters has these powers, does not want to be a superhero.
That's fair.
Kamala Khan wants to be a superhero. That's like her dream. Like when she got powers, she was excited. She wants to do this. So you have that conflict as well. Like, there would be a scene where Cassie tries to get, Jennifer Walters to buy her beer, and she's like, no. And like her and the Scarab lady go off to a bar. And I also, the other reason I want to do this is because I loved the She-Hulk show, and I loved Tatiana Maslany as She-Hulk.
She's
And she
wonderful.
was so great. I also really loved the woman who played the Scarab in Moon Knight. She was really, really
Yes.
cool. And also then you have these different other dynamics as well, because you have this woman who is from the Middle East, and you have Kamala, who is from the Middle East but grew up in America.
She is not from the Middle East. South Asia.
South Asia, sorry. But okay. But you have her from this other part of the world, you know, and very tied to her ethnicity, you know,
Right.
you know, where it's a big part of her life. So is her religion. And so you have that like going on. Like, what do those two talk about?
Right.
You know, that those two can't talk about to Kate Bishop or Cassie Lang, who are American and white and whatever, you know, and maybe even America Chavez in there, because we don't really know. She doesn't seem to have as much of a, except for her name, she didn't at least display a lot in the show.
In the movie, in the comics, she's Latina as any. I mean,
well, she's Latina in the show in the MCU as well, but there was nothing. It wasn't like when you saw Kamala, like you got to see a lot more of Kamala in her TV show than you did America. No, I mean, don't forget, America's from, you know, was from a version of Earth.
Yes, as in the comics, but as I mentioned earlier, in the comics, she definitely had more, like her speech was definitely more, there was more Spanglish mixed in, and that was part of her portrayal in Multiverse of Madness.
Right.
So,
and also, and let's not forget, if they do bring in Miles Morales, like his ethnicity is also a big part of that as well, because he also speaks, right, you know,
as
you know, what I'm really saying here, Raymond, is this show has to be woke.
You want DEI,
because you gotta go, either go woke or you go broke, and everybody loves woke, so it has to be woke.
A couple of comments for you to address. Johan said, "Is this Marvel's version of Sky High?"
God, I hope.
Carlos said, "Is Paul talking about a school for gifted youngsters?"
That's just stupid.
I mean, yeah, I don't want it to be a school at all.
What I want it to be is, I want it to be basically like an Avengers version of what they're doing with Strange Academy. But it doesn't have to be like a full-time school. Like, what I'm sort of thinking of it is like an intensive 2-week program over the summer where they all just kind of get together.
It's a workshop.
Yeah. You know, because Jen Walters has a job. I mean, I don't know about the Scarab lady, but like, you know, Jen has a job.
Well, for me, I love both of these characters, but I don't want either of them in it. Like, I want it to be more about the young kids hanging out and not only dealing with growing up, which is hard enough on its own, but growing up as a super powered person, which I think is the most interesting aspect of comics like Champions, Young Avengers. Teen Titans is one of my favorite books for a while. And part of it was the dynamic of it's almost like the show Friends, where that stage of life for most people anyway, when you're in your 20s and early 30s, where you're not quite an adult yet, you haven't started your own family, but you're not a kid either. So I think that's the most interesting stage of life.
Then maybe what they should do is a show called Super Friends, and they all live in apartments together, and
the theme song could be "That's Super, thanks for asking," or "We're Super, thanks for asking." Zach Morris says, "I wouldn't be surprised to see Disney mash up Young Avengers and West Coast Avengers." Now we'd have to bring in Mockingbird, who was Hawkeye's wife in the comics.
Ooh, I like Mockingbird.
Wet Hot Avengers Summer. I love those actors. We'll get Joe Latrulio in it. I love The State. Nobody else did except for my one friend Will in college. Yeah, but nobody. We're the only two people in our friend group that would watch The State religiously. And I like all those actors. So I believe that does it for all the possible members. But let's talk about possible mentors, or as Paul sees it, possible teachers in this case. Now, this all started, the impetus for this episode started with Daredevil, which is so weird for me to see that Daredevil has connections more than any other character, adult character in the MCU. He has connections to 3 of the people that we mentioned. In episode 5 of Born Again, he meets Yusuf Khan, who is Kamala Khan's father. And I was like, what? I knew he was going to be in the episode, but Yusuf also mentions that Kamala is in California. People speculated that she could be visiting her friend Bruno, who went away to college, like an early admission thing in California, or she could be out in California trying to recruit Cassie. So Daredevil has a connection with Kamala. He's been invited to the Khan family for dinner. He has a connection with Angela Del Toro, obviously, White Tiger. And if Scar is in it, he has a connection with Scar because he boned She-Hulk in that series. So I was surprised that out of anybody, they made Daredevil, the one that links all these guys together, or at least possible way to do it. How would you feel about Daredevil being the unlikely mentor to a gang of kids?
I don't see it unless something changes over the course of the next couple episodes of Daredevil.
I mean, he's so violent.
I mean, well, first of all, he doesn't work. I mean, yeah, I know he worked with the Defenders, but they kind of just came together. They weren't like formal. They weren't like.
Yeah, he was very reluctant about the whole thing.
Yeah, and they didn't team up per se. Like they were just kind of there together.
Right.
So he doesn't have the team building skills that you would need. I think that he would be good for teaching people how to do hand-to-hand combat. Like if you had a bunch of different people come in to sort of teach different skills, like he would be a good person to have come in and teach, kicking and punching and things like that, especially because Wanda can't do that. I mean, not Wanda,
right. Wiccan?
No, I was going to the Black Widow lady whose name I can't remember. Natasha would be great at that, but she's not around. So he would be good for that. I just don't see him being like the teacher. I see him being like, today's guest lecturer is Daredevil, and he's going to teach you some hand-to-hand combat.
You're really stuck on this thing being a school, aren't you? I mean,
because I've been reading Strange Academy lately, so
he seems like an unlikely mentor, but the way they've set it up, he has the most connections. It seems strange to me, but it could work. You also get the Catholic.
I mean, yes, but also don't forget, like, okay, so Captain Marvel, you could say, has connections to Ms. Marvel. Mm-hmm. And through her has connections to the other ones, so she could be the team leader.
She's the Kevin Bacon of this whole thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, there's a bunch of people who have different connections to these people. You could say, well, Bruce Banner could do it because he knows Scar and he knows She-Hulk and he knows Hawkeye, who knows Kate Bishop and
yeah, but you're going with different. Daredevil would have the most direct connections out of anyone.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't see it. It also sort of depends on how they get together.
Yeah,
because it seems like what's happening is Kamala is recruiting people who are young to kind of get together and form like their own version of the Avengers. Like that's where it seems like it's going. In which case, the adults have nothing to do with it.
Well, we'll see. I mean, we're going 2 steps ahead. I'm just going with what we have.
Right.
And so far out of the adults, they've given Daredevil the most connections with the young characters, surprisingly so. But that's what they've given us. Nobody else has as many direct connections.
Well, this just dawned on me. You don't think they're doing this because they want to integrate Daredevil more into the MCU, and they're kind of just doing all this, like to get him to be part of that?
Boned She-Hulk. Like, I don't
kind of. I mean, if you think about it, they didn't really need him in that. They didn't really need Kamala's dad to be the banker. You know,
right. But they've also used Matt in Spider-Man, so it's not like they've sprinkled him in other things.
But that one makes a little more sense because they were like, well, we need like a lawyer who's really, really good.
Well, he was a lawyer in She-Hulk on the opposing side as well. So
you're right. I forgot about that. Okay, but still, the Kamala's dad thing, you didn't need to integrate him into it. I love that they did.
Right.
Made the show better, but I think that maybe they're kind of thinking like, you know, we had these other shows over here that weren't part of anything except they verbally mentioned, you know, the attack on New York. So we need to like, you know, kind of show that.
They had a stupid term for it in the Netflix show. They called it like the incident or whatever, like because they couldn't say Avengers or whatever for the longest time. But yeah, it was some dumb term. I hated it.
Yeah. So it could be just that they're doing this to like set things up. I think the other thing that's interesting with Marvel is, and I think this is important to keep in mind, if they introduce a character and they have hints of a comic book connection, they're doing that intentionally.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like they didn't, for example, like Eli Bradley, like they didn't just make his kid Eli Bradley because they thought it was a cool name. They were like, they want to have that in the back pocket. Like, okay, if we want to ever bring in Patriot, we've set it up.
Ooh, here's a good one. What if they somehow integrated X-23 into the Young Avengers as a leader, assuming they go with kids? I love Laura and I love Daphne Keane as an actor. I don't see Laura as the leader type. And they're not yet in the MCU, but they will be eventually. Let's see what happens with the Avengers movies. But yeah, I didn't mention Laura at all. I don't know, if we're talking about archetypes, you need the borderline insane bloodthirsty one too. So yeah, let's have X-23 in it. That would be cool. Carlos says, are we assuming that Daredevil won't be used in Doomsday or Secret Wars? Well, he didn't have his name on a chair, did he? Was Charlie Cox's name on? I didn't pay too much attention to it.
I don't remember. I remember looking at a list, and I don't think his name was on there. But then again, like I think that they held back some names from that list.
But I don't think they'd be holding a big surprise, Charlie Cox. I don't think that's.
Well, no. What I mean is I don't think they're holding it back because they want to surprise people at Charlie Cox. I think they're holding it back because they don't want to give anything away to how Daredevil turns up in those movies.
Right, but I mean
same thing with like the other characters, because you have like enough big stars in that movie that you know that there's nobody really that you could hold back unless it was
Spider-Man was not on there.
Yeah, but even with him, I feel like if they held his name back, they held it back because they don't want to spoil something about the movie or about Spider-Man's involvement in the movie. Not that they don't want to spoil Tom Holland being in the movie.
Just having his name in a chair doesn't spoil.
Well, no, because if you say Charlie Cox is going to be in the movie, then you go, okay, well, Daredevil's in the movie. But if he turns up in a way that's sort of like how he turned up in the Spider-Man movie, where you want it to be a surprise.
I don't think it matters though, especially for a big thing like this.
Maybe. I don't know. Yeah,
I don't think there's any benefit of not mentioning him now. Whereas Tom Holland, that could be a bigger deal, especially with Peter's connection with Tony and him seeing a villain with Tony's face. That obviously will be a major moment.
Yeah.
So to continue with Carlos's comment, if he's not, he can be one of the mentors of the Young Avengers / Champions. We'll need him to step up while the main Avengers are gone. That's a very plausible thing too. One of the other possible mentors that people have been mentioning on the internet, which I never really thought of, but people are saying that Vision, who will be in the upcoming Vision Quest series, should be a mentor. I don't know. I don't see MCU Vision, who I think is different enough from comics Vision at this point, serving as a mentor kind of figure. Especially since he has to get himself alive again. So, how do you feel about Vision? That one seemed kind of out of left field to me. Although I could be missing something.
It seems a little out of left field, but again, kind of like what we said with Riri Williams, I think a lot will depend on what happens in that show. I think that they could do something in that show to make it more friendly to that idea. But he wouldn't be my first choice.
Yeah,
for a mentor.
I don't think he'd be in my top 5 choices. I gave him a last name, by the way. He is now Vision Jones. Because I was just thinking of Motherfucker Jones for some reason. I don't know. Don't ask. The third possible mentor is kind of a joke, kind of not. But I would love Wong to be the mentor / dad type figure, because I love Benedict Wong. First of all, he's a great actor. I love the character Wong, but it also gives us an excuse to bring Madison back into this. And love me some Madison. What is it? 2 N's, 1 Y, but it's not where you think. But yeah.
I think first of all, I think too much Madison is too much.
Right.
She has to be used sparingly. I do think that Wong would be a really good teacher / mentor / sort of
babysitter.
Babysitter. We know that he knows America. We know that he
right.
can be a teacher.
And he has patience because he can deal with Madison for extended periods of time.
Right. I think I would love to see him interacting with Kate Bishop and Kamala and Cassie. Like I can see a scene where like him and She-Hulk and the Scarab are sitting there like drinking beers and just bitching about them damn kids.
You could be giving Wiccan a hard time during magic lessons.
Right. Yeah, I think he would be a really good sort of person to have. And again, you're right. Benedict Wong is just masterful in that role. It's always funny now. Like I'll go back and watch movies and I'll be like, oh, hey, it's Wong. Like, because you don't realize he's going to be in something and you're like, oh, wow, he's in that. Okay.
I think Wong should be in everything. He should be like the new Nick Fury and have bit scenes in everything that they do. Because they can't do that. They tried to do that with Val, but now that she has her own movie coming out, they need a new person to be in like the mid-credit scenes in every movie. So we will end things with the last possible mentor that you brought up as a last-minute addition. I didn't think about it, but it actually works on several levels. But Paul, why would you bring up Hawkeye? Why do you think he would work?
Hawkeye, again, I think could be a good teacher. He could be a good leader. He's a good strategist. Mm-hmm. We know that he, works well with other people because we saw him, with Kate Bishop, and obviously with the Avengers, of course.
And even before that with Natasha, when they would.
True. You're right. Right. I think he would be a really good person. The only thing is, like, you could make the argument that having him and Kate Bishop on the same team is a little redundant, but like, I mean, maybe you do something where he doesn't go out into the field.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's what I was going to say, especially since Jeremy Renner got into that horrific accident a few years ago, and he basically said he's going to be rehabbing his whole life. So I don't think, if he wanted to physically, I don't think he could participate in those kinds of scenes anyway. So maybe this would be a nice thing to have a mentor role for him, since physically I think he's in his mid-50s now. Is he like?
Yeah.
So recovery is going to be hard anyway for after that. Was it a snowmobile accident?
Yeah, he got run over by a snowmobile.
Jesus. So
Yeah.
recovering in your mid 50s when your muscle mass and your ability to create muscle, retain muscle, and your testosterone is all going down. This would kind of be a nice role for him to have that father figure, that mentor kind of role. And almost like it would be nice for Disney to give him those paychecks, since he's going to have I'm sure he's done well for himself already, but he's going to have a pretty difficult rest of his life physically. So let's give him a paycheck. I don't know. I think
yeah. I mean, I also like him as an actor. I really like him in that character, and it would be nice to see him. And it would also, be a nice bridge between this young group and the original Avengers and whatnot, so that when something big happens and Thor comes back into town and Bruce Banner, like they have, obviously some of them have connections already, but like it would be interesting. He also had really good banter / chemistry with Kate Bishop, which makes me think that he would have the same with Cassie and with Kamala and America and some of the other characters. I would love to see him interacting with She-Hulk, talking shit about Bruce and whatnot.
And be like, you slept with that guy? You slept with the blind guy? Like,
yeah, there's that too.
That's interesting, because they have in the comics they had a very adversarial relationship that would be fun.
But Hawkeye in the comics, especially like the last 10 years, has kind of been a very different character.
Yeah.
Than the one we see in the movies. Like he's kind of, he's kind of a jerk and a bit self-centered and selfish and
I would have said he was more of a jerk before, where he was more overtly sexist, but that's how he was written in like the 80s.
Yeah, but I mean, now he's kind of, I don't know, he's kind of more of a fuck up, I think.
He's kind of an angry old man.
Yeah. So,
which could be fun for a team mentor / father figure.
Right. But he has like the experience of like, look, he got his mind taken over by Loki. So all of a sudden Kid Loki shows up, and that's got to be weird, so
yeah, he could teach them a lot. He's a human character who's survived alien invasions, civil wars, superhero civil wars, blowing up other countries. He has a lot of life lessons to impart to young heroes.
Yeah, and he also doesn't want to retire. I mean, don't forget, he went and played golf, shot 18.
And plus, hopefully they bring back Linda Cardellini. It was always delightful.
Oh yeah,
she
has a backstory too that we don't really know anything about.
Well, yes, she was Velma. So
I didn't mean that.
Hawkeye, she was solving mysteries with a dog and a stoner. she has some upcoming nerd series that I can't remember.
Oh, I know. Yeah, there was something just announced with her that everybody was all excited about.
Oh, Friday the 13th, where she will play.
Oh yeah.
Yes, she will play Mama Voorhees. That could be interesting. But yes, I've loved her since Freaks and Geeks, and I thought she looked perfect as Velma. So always good to see her. What is Matthew Lillard up to these days? Speaking of the Scooby,
he's gonna be in something. I think he's in the new Scream. Maybe I thought he was coming back. And I feel like he got like some. Hang on, I'm gonna look this up because there was something that he just did recently. He does a lot.
It was the Scream thing. You're right.
Maybe that was it. Oh, he's in the Five Nights at Freddy's 2, and he's gonna be in Scream. And I feel like I thought there was something else that he was gonna do. Oh, he's in season 2 of Daredevil.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Wait, hang on. Matthew Lillard is set to join the cast of Daredevil Born Again Season 2, which is already in production.
Yes.
Character details are being kept under lock and key.
Hmm.
And that was a month ago. So,
okay.
Yeah.
My theory on Matthew Lillard, he will be the resurrected muse back from hell. I don't know. That's probably not it.
See, I think it's going to come out that you were right the first time, that Scooby-Doo is actually part of the MCU. Disney's going to buy it. And
that would be great if his first line was "Yoinks."
well, you know, it's weird. I don't know if this was, I assume this was a joke, but I haven't been able to confirm or deny it. There was something the other day that said that Disney was buying Troma. You know, the people that make the Toxic Avengers movie?
That's weird.
I know. And then I just like tried to imagine like the Toxic Avengers showing up.
Why? Yeah.
I don't know.
Sure. I mean, that'll be a wrap on our Young Avengers / Champions episodes. I had a lot of fun talking about this stuff with you and fleshing out making up characterizations in our head. So we went over, all told, we went through 13 possible members, 4 possible mentors. Zach Morris is off. Thank you for hanging out, sir. Yeah, if you guys have any characters that you think would be a good fit for Young Avengers, either as a team member or a mentor, please leave your thoughts in the comments section. Don't forget to like.
You know who we didn't talk about?
Who did we not?
Kidpool, Baby Deadpool, Lady Deadpool, Headpool.
I'm sure there were like, as I was putting together the list, there are like 5 characters that I was borderline on, but I forgot about them already. Next week, Mac and I will be doing a bad movie review of Prisoners of the Lost Universe, which is a horrific movie from the 80s that is, I don't know, depending on your point of view, it could be so bad that it's amazingly, unintentionally funny. And the week after, Paul will be returning with our excellent friend Marcus to talk about Daredevil Born Again, Season 1. I am tempted. I have 2 weeks to practice, but I kind of want to do the whole review in D'Onofrio's Kingpin voice and be like, I think this show is very good, but in some places disjointed. I don't know if I can get through an hour of that. My throat hurts already. But don't forget to go to paulsemel.com, enter the contest on Patreon for a free water bottle. The cost of entry is free. You just have to be a member. Membership is free again. You just have to leave a comment on the April giveaway post, and hope to see you next week on RPadTV. Thanks for watching, guys. Be good.